Tissot launched the PRX 35mm automatic. You already knew that. However, on the 8th of March this year, they announced the model for the media, and after a couple of weeks, it was leaked by a boutique. Social media found out about it, it was very excited, and I had to announce it as well. So expect to see more PRXs by the end of this year. But this is the less important part. The most important part is the fact that people got very excited about this model mainly for two reasons. Either because 35mm is faithful to the original one, or simply people got tired of the 40mm version because they consider it too big. Now, in the defense of the 40mm version, I can say that the PRX got popular in 2020 because the integrated bracelet concept of the Genta took over, which got traction within the enthusiasts. It got revived. And this resulted in huge numbers for Tissot. However, understanding the Genta designs, with small exceptions, the current hype and the genuine Genta designs are not small. That's actually the point of the integrated bracelet concept, to provide presence on the wrist. The hyped integrated bracelets of Patek, AP or Vacheron are situated in average between 39 and 43mm, not smaller, not bigger. So the PRX platform at 40mm should be able to be worn confidently and enjoyed on small wrists as well. At least with the newer rubbers, the PRX tonneau shape displays lesser metal, looking smaller on the wrist. But that is not the point, isn't it? Maybe people refuse to accept the 40mm version because the smaller size trend becomes more and more important. There is no secret that the sizing trend is shifting once again towards smaller sized watches, and we cannot ignore the people's preferences towards smaller and more comfortable timekeepers. If 2 or 3 years ago the brands were pleasing us with 40 or 41mm designs, thinking that they were offering the ideal size for the vast majority of the people, numbers shows us that the trend is seeking for a new standard for smaller sized watches. So the range between 40 and 42mm in diameter slowly shifts towards 36-39mm range. This is a trend sustained by more and more brands. Here we can mention a few examples like the return to original specs of the Rolex Explorer 1, the popularity of the Medium Santos de Cartier, the excited Tudor Black Bay 54 moved to the original specs at 37mm, the Tudor Pelagos 39, and now the Swatch Group reacts as well with the new Tissot PRX automatic in 35mm. So people get more excited nowadays for smaller watches than 39mm with thinner cases and taper bracelets more than ever. And I confirm because it's happening to me as well. Now, there are themed accurate reissues where people get more hyped about them, like the iconic watches reissued in the exact regular size. I'm a sucker for this, you will see in the upcoming episodes. But what I want to highlight here, some brands prefer to launch these versions and to target both genders, males and females, in the same line, which doesn't need to be differentiated through diamonds on the bezel or mother of pearl dials just to understand that this is a dedicated ladies' watch or not. I managed to upset some people with a previous quote saying that the PRX 35mm version is destined for ladies. But not because I think it looks like a ladies' watch. It's because bigger brands target sizes in a way to cover both genders. Tudor does it, Swatch Group does it. However, I think Tissot are really smart. They discovered a way to listen to people's preferences, and the automatic version, in my view, came up as a request from the passionate males who just wanted a smaller size automatic PRX. And not because automatic ladies' watches are successful in the market, because it involves to wind the watch carefully, to set the date, to set the time, and so on. So I'm not sure if the unwritten new standard aims to get all the way back to the 50s, where a 35mm watch was considered normality. I am personally excited about it, and in the upcoming episodes we will get deeper and deeper in this subject. And by the way, this video is as well sponsored by Albini Prasa, time-dedicated pioneers, as I said, my friends, and Tissot official retailers. I will leave the link once again to their website in the description. Now getting into specs, putting a bit of highlight in the acceptance of my wrist sizes preference, mentally I was able to accept the Explorer 1, which measures 35.5mm, because I embraced somehow the normality of the 50s sizing. However, in the same manner, I couldn't accept the Seiko 5 in 38mm, which wears way smaller than the diameter indicated, because as a diver it wears way too small. Compared to the 40mm version, the 35mm one has a scaled down case, keeping the same height of the automatic 40mm version. So now, if the Quartz 35mm has a height of 9.6mm, the Automatic 35 has 10.9mm. If the diameter of the Powermatic 8111 is 25.6mm in diameter, which is surprisingly small, height-wise the watch design couldn't be optimized. The waffle pattern has the same proportions. It is truncated with two small blocks from each side to fit the smaller dial. Also, the elements within the dial, like the date window, the top logo or the bottom label, are proportions-wise the same as the 40mm versions because the date disc placement is the same. And as a result, it makes the dial to look a bit more busy because the mentioned elements are in the same size. As wearability, I do like the narrower bracelet, which is scaled proportionally, because it makes the watch to be more elegant for these proportions. However, I think the dial should have been a bit bigger, and we can spot the watch side by side with the Explorer. It looks smaller, and as a result, without upsetting anyone, on my wrist it looks like a lady's watch. I mean, it is hard to wear. I barely can pull off the Explorer one, which has a bigger dial and a bit more presence on the wrist, except in the bracelet. But in the case of the integrated 35mm PRX, sadly is the same verdict. The watch is way too small for my wrist. However, if you are a PRX fan, I recommend you to try to see it in flesh before you say yes or no to the new 35mm version. I hope in the future the brand will extend the platform with an intermediary size. I know a lot of people find themselves in between the PRX sizes, and the brand might come up with a 37-38mm version. And here as well, I hope they will reiterate the automatic dial pattern or maybe come up with some striking bright tones as Oris does with the actual collection or as Omega did with the Aquaterra latest versions. I would love to enjoy a rich yellow or red dial on a PRX design matched by a rubber strap in the same color, but time will tell. However, I do have a curiosity. In regard to the price, I'm curious what do you think about the prices in general of the same watch but downsized considerably? Because due to the diminished size, shouldn't be the smaller watches downscaled in price compared to the bigger size? I mean, the Tudor Black by 54 is lesser expensive than the 58 without making a compromise in the quality, not to mention that the clasp of the 54 is more complex than the 58 one. And in the end, I'm really curious to know, besides your thoughts in regard to the new PRX 35mm, what is your preferred range of wristwatches? Mine is apparently between 45 and 35mm. So please let me know in the comments below. And as usual, if you're new around, please consider subscribing for future episodes. Thank you very much, thanks for watching, and until next time, be brave, bud!